Alright, hello my awesome Math 7 students. It is Wednesday. We are on day 27 of quarter 4. We have about 4 weeks left. Alright, so we have been doing review. This is Edpuzzle number 13, so make sure you have a piece of paper out. You're going to be doing Edpuzzle number 13. You're going to be writing down the examples as we go along. Make sure you put your first and last name. We're going to go over these 3 examples, and we're also going to go over these 2 examples. So make sure you copy down all 5 examples throughout the video. So this is what your paper should look like when you turn it in for homework on Friday. Also, it's really important that you pay attention during this review because you will have a project that I'm going to assign next week that is going to be just based on finding the surface area of an object and finding the volume of an object. So that's why I did a whole week of review so you guys would be ready for the project that I will assign on Monday. Alright, so here's the worksheet as a whole. This will be attached to the Edpuzzle assignment as a PDF, so you can download this and copy down all the notes if you need to. Here are the steps, formulas, all of that information you need for surface area and volume because we're doing review. So this is all the notes part of it, and then here are the examples on the back of this worksheet that will be attached as a PDF to the Edpuzzle. Alright, just to remind you, here's the formula for surface area. It is surface area equals 2 times the length times the width plus 2 times the width times the height plus 2 times the length times the height. And then here are the steps for finding surface area. Remember, surface area is like wrapping a present. How much wrapping paper do I need to cover the whole box? Alright, and here's all the information on volume. You have your formula for volume of a prism. This is a general formula, right? And then you have all the formulas for area of a rectangle, triangle, and trapezoid that you need in order to create your formula for volume of a formula. And then we also have the steps. So make sure you have this all written down so you can use this to help you for your project that will be assigned next week. Also, don't worry, the project's not too crazy. It's pretty straightforward. And I will give you very detailed, specific directions on exactly what to do. So hopefully there will be no confusion. Alright, so let's go ahead and work on example number 1. So first we need to find the surface area of this rectangular prism. So like I said before, we just got to make sure we follow these 5 steps. Those are the key to solving these problems. So step 1 is write the formula. Alright, so step 1 is done. I wrote down the formula, which you should have written down in your notes. So we went over it for the last couple weeks. So there's your formula. Step 2, we need to identify the height, length, and width of this prism. So our height is going to be 5 inches. The length is going to be 10 inches. And our width is going to be 2 inches. Alright, so step 2 is done. We have identified the height, length, and width, and now we need to substitute the values into the formula. So I took the formula and I rewrote it, but I didn't put the letters there. This time we're going to put the actual values of the letters instead. So it's 2 times L, so our L is our length, which represents 10 inches, times our width, which is 2 inches, and then that's the first section, plus 2 times L again, which is 10 inches, times H, which is our height, that we said that is 5 inches. And then the third section we're going to do is 2 times W, so our width is 2 inches, times our H, which is our height, and that is a total of 5 inches. So step 3 is done. Substitute the values into the formula. And now we're moving on to step 4, which is to multiply each section first. So remember, we're going to multiply sections by section. Okay, so what's 2 times 10 inches times 2 inches? That is going to give me a total of 40 inches squared. Remember, we're dealing with inches squared because it's inches times inches. And then what's 2 times 10 inches times 5 inches? That's going to give me a total of 100 inches squared. And then we're going to multiply the third section, which is going to be 2 times 2 inches times 5 inches, which gives me a total of 20 inches squared. So we did the first part of that, and now we need to add everything together. So plug this into your calculator. What's 40 inches squared plus 100 inches squared plus 20 inches squared? That's going to give you a total surface area of 160 inches squared. So that is the total surface area of this rectangular prism, 160 inches squared. All right, so we're going to continue with number 1, but this time we need to find the volume. So we already found the surface area of this prism. Now we want to find the volume. We're going to use these 6 steps to help us find the volume. So step number 1 is to identify the base of the prism. So if we're looking at the shape, it looks like the base of the prism is a rectangle, so we know that's true. And now we need to create the formula. Alright, so we know that the formula for volume is volume equals big B times big H. And big B represents the area of the base. So what kind of base are we dealing with? Well, we said a rectangle. So what is the area of that base? Well, the area of a rectangle is base times height. So instead of putting the big B, which represents the area of the base, well, we know what the area of the base is. We know that is little b times little h. So the formula for volume of a rectangular prism is little b times little h times big H. So step 2 is done. We created the formula, and now we're moving on to step 3, which is identify the values of the formula. So remember, we have little b, which is the base of our rectangle. So the base of our rectangle is 2. The height of the rectangle is 5 inches, and the height of the entire prism, remember we're talking about the prism itself, is 10 inches. Alright, so step 3 is done. We identified the values. Now we need to substitute everything in. So I just rewrote our problem, but instead of putting the letters, I just put blank spaces. So the formula is volume equals little b, well, we said little b is 2 inches, times little h, which we said is 5 inches, and then we need to multiply it by big H, which we said is 10 inches. So step 4 what is done. We substituted the values into the formula, and now we need to apply order of operations. So as I can see, I'm just going to multiply straight through. It's only multiplication. There's no addition or division or anything like that, so I multiply straight through. So what's 2 inches times 5 inches times 10 inches? That is going to give me a total volume, of 100 inches cubed, because remember we multiplied inches 3 times, so that should be 100 inches cubed is our final answer. Alright, you're going to go ahead and try number 2 on your own. I need you to find both the surface area and the volume of this prism. So remember, it's like you're doing 2 problems. You need to find the surface area first, and then you need to find the volume for the prism of number 2. It is the same as number 1, just different numbers, so just follow the same steps and process as we did for number 1. Alright, so let's go ahead and do number 3. So the first thing we need to do is find the surface area. So we're just going to follow those 5 steps we have right there. So step 1 is write the formula. As you can see, I already wrote the formula. This is the formula we've been using for the past couple weeks. And then now we need to do step 2, which is to identify the height, width, and length of this rectangular prism. Alright, so we know the height is 4 yards, our width is 7 yards, and the length is 15 yards. Okay, so step 2 is done. Now we need to do step 3, which is to substitute the values into the formula. So I rewrote the formula, but I took the letters out. So let's go ahead and fill those spots with the actual values of the letter. So it's 2 times L, well, we said our length is 15 yards, times our width, which we said is 7 yards. So the first section is done. Plus 2 times L again, which is 15 yards. That's our length. Times H, which is our height, and we said that is 4 yards. So the second section is done. And now the last one is 2 times width, which is 7 yards, times our height, which is 4 yards. So step 3 is done. We substituted all the values into the formula. Now we need to do step 4, which is to multiply each section first. So we're going to do 2 times 15 yards times 7 yards. That's going to give me a total of 210 yards squared. And now we're going to multiply the second section. So it's 2 times 15 yards times 4 yards. So that will give me a total of 120 yards squared. And then we need to do the last section. We need to multiply everything together. What's 2 times 7 yards times 4 yards? That is going to give me a total of 56 yards squared. Because remember, yards times yards gives us yards squared. And now that we multiplied everything, we're going to add everything together. So if you throw this into your calculator, add it all up, it's going to give you a total surface area of 386 yards squared. So this is the surface area for this prism. All right, so we're still on number 3, but now we're going to find the volume for this prism. So let's go ahead and go through that. So step 1 is to identify the base. Well, we see that the base is a rectangle, so we're dealing with a rectangular prism. And now we need to create that formula, but for problem number 1, we already created the formula, so I'm just going to reuse that same formula. So we said the formula for volume of a rectangular base is little base times little h times big H. So remember, this formula is only for rectangular ones. This formula doesn't work for triangular or trapezoidal. It only works for rectangular prisms, so just be aware. All right, now we have to go to step 3, which is identify the values of the prism. So we need to find the little base, which is going to be 7 yards. Our little height is going to be 4 yards, and the height of the entire prism is 15 yards. Okay, so step 3 is done. Now we're going to do step 4, which is substitute the values into the formula. So our little base, our little b, is going to be 7 yards. Our little height is going to be 4 yards. And the big height is 15 yards. So step 4 is done. We substituted everything in. And now we're going to apply operations. So all I see is multiplication. So I'm just going to multiply all the way straight through. Plug this into your calculator. What is 7 yards times 4 yards times 15 yards? That is going to give you a total volume of 420 yards cubed, right? Because we multiplied yards 3 times. So there's your final answer, the final volume of this rectangular prism. All right, so number 4, I need you to do on your own. I need you to find the surface area and volume of this rectangular prism. It is the same problem as number 3, but just different numbers. So use the same steps and process as number 3. All right, I was going to have you guys do number 5 with me, but I decided to just take it out because we didn't do a number 5 on Monday, and you're already doing a lot. Just remember that you need to complete problems 2 and 4 for homework. So remember, on Friday, you're going to be turning this in as homework, and you need to complete problems numbers 2 and 4. And then, yes, next week we will have a project. You're going to be finding the surface area and volume of real-life objects. Like I said earlier, it's pretty straightforward, and if you have questions, I will be here to help you every step of the way. So don't worry or don't get nervous. It's going to be a pretty easy project. I hope this video helps clarify a few things for you, and then if you need any help, let me know. Email me, text me. I am here to help you guys. Thanks. Miss Turner.